Good day all. Today we'll see about transport layer protocols. The slides has been taken from data communication and networking by Feruza. As we have studied earlier, transport layer involves with process to process delivery. Data link layer, the unit of transfer is frames and the address is MAC address. In transport layer, the unit of transfer is segments and addressing is port address. So this port address is given to uniquely identify every process or every application in a host. You can see here the data link layer takes care of transmission between nodes or across links, whereas the transport layer takes care of transmission between process, and network layer is responsible for transmitting from one host to another. So here we can see that there are various port numbers. So few of the port numbers, they are well defined port, meaning which will not be able to use them. Yes, so you can see there is transfer from one source to another destination where there are multiple process or applications running in both sender and receiver side, and every process is uniquely identified with the help of a port number. So the port number is used to select the process and IP address is used to select the host. So you can see here IANA is the organization that gives you permission to use a port. So certain ports are called as well-known ports. For example, FTP has got a well-known port as 21, and similarly these numbers from 0 to 1023, it is assigned for some well-defined applications, and so it cannot be used. And similarly 1024 to 49,151, it is registered. Some of them have paid and registered to use this port so that nobody else will able to use this port. Yes, the remaining ports are the dynamic port numbers. In case you are writing your own client server application, you can use a port number of higher range so that you will not have any clash with the existing port numbers. The IP address and port number together, it forms a socket address. Yes. So we have seen that the transport layer, it is end-to-end communication, and every communication endpoint is denoted with the help of a socket address, which comprises of an IP address and a port number. So another application of transport layer is multiplexing and demultiplexing. Hope you can see what do you mean by multiplexing and demultiplexing, because there is one connection, unique connection between a sender and receiver. For example, in the sender side you are running multiple processes. So you are browsing. At the same time, you are downloading a file and using FTP client. You are referring to your mail and using SMTP client. So you are running multiple clients. So every client will be having a one process. FTP client is communicating with the FTP server. So in case of say we are communicating, this is one host, right? So this host is communicating with multiple servers. Yes. So you are running multiple processes in the host side. For example, you have got three different clients running in H1. So each of the client is going to communicate with the three different servers. Yes. So the IP address of this host will be some, say, IP1. Yes. So this host is communicating with three different servers. Yes. So these 3 different servers will be having 3 different IPs. Yes. So IP2, IP3, IP4. Yes. And say this host is running 3 different process or application. Yes. So one is FTP, another is HTTP, another is SMTP. Yes. So these 3 are 3 different process. Yes. So each of this process will be having one unique, say, port number. Yes. So this communication endpoint, it is referred by means of a socket address. Yes. For example, for SMTP it is IP1, comma this port address 3. For HTTP it is port address 2. For FTP it is port address 1. Yes. So the communication endpoint in host H1 is IP1, P1 for FTP, IP1, P2 for HTTP, and IP1, P3 for SMTP. Similarly, the communication endpoint, the other end of communication for this will be IP2, say P1. Yes, IP3, P2. Yes, IP4, P3. Yes, so that is the address which is uniquely used to identify the communication endpoint. And this is the error control. You can see data link layer, it is error control and flow control functions. We have already seen that error control and flow control are done both in data link layer and transport layer. Yes. So what is the difference? In data link layer, the error and flow control is between the links, and in transport layer the error and flow control is across the end systems. When we do error and flow control in data link layer, then why is it necessary to repeat the same function in transport layer? Because as we have seen, the error and flow control which is done in the data link layer is checking the transmission of frames between the links. Whereas in network layer, the protocol used is IP protocol. This IP protocol is a connectionless protocol. That means you don't establish connection, you don't get an acknowledgement, but still it is a best effort protocol. Yes. So in network layer, when you are using IP protocol to transmit, still there will be some issues with transmission. Yes. So those transmissions which are done by the upper layers is taken care of by the transport layer. I repeat, the data link layer error control and flow control deals with the frames. Yes, that is, if there are any issues in data link layer because of collision, because of media access, then it will be taken care of by the data link layer. On the other hand, if there are flow control and error control because of the network layer traffic issues, because of congestion, because of lack of buffer, in that case the flow control will be taken care of by the transport layer. You can see the protocol stack. So now we are looking at transport layer protocols, which is TCP and UDP. So and there are also other protocols. So the main difference between TCP and UDP is that TCP is a connection oriented protocol, UDP is a connectionless protocol. TCP transmission is reliable. UDP it is unreliable. It is reliable because there is acknowledgement in TCP, whereas in UDP there is no acknowledgement. In TCP, since connection is established, all the packets or segments will take the same path and it is in order delivery, whereas in UDP it is out of order delivery. Let us see the protocol format of UDP protocol. UDP is user datagram protocol. As every protocol, UDP2 has a header followed by data. The fields in the header are source port number, destination port number, total length, and checksum field. Okay, so the port number, it denotes the source application and the destination application. Checksum is, remember we saw the checksum field in data 2. Yes, so that will divide the data into chunks, perform the checksum operation and send it along with the data. Here it is header checksum. For every header 2, we will perform the checksum only for the fields in the header, so that the bits in the header field is not changed. Okay, so this is the total length inclusive of header and data as well. So UDP length is IP length minus IP header length, because you know every data sent by one layer to the layer beneath it will be encapsulated in the data portion of the subsequent or underlying layer. So you are sending UDP packet from the transport layer. So what happens in network layer? In network layer data, the entire UDP packet is getting embedded. Okay, so it is like this. So UDP has got header field and data field. So this entire thing will be embedded as data portion. Yes, so this is the transport layer segment. This is network layer. Yes, so in network this is the IP header and IP data. Yes, so now this entire UDP or TCP packet will be embedded in the data portion of the IP packet and will be transmitted. So the entire TCP segment is embedded in the data portion. The IP adds its own header and then forwards it. And this is the pseudo header. So UDP, it not only has a header but also has an additional pseudo header which will have the source IP address, destination address, all zeros, it is a padding field, and the name of the underlying protocol, and then the total length. Yes, so as in IP, using the total length and header length, you will be always able to calculate the length of the data or payload. This computation of checksum is similar to as done in data. So for UDP header 2, you will perform the same operation and finally compute the checksum. Next we'll see about TCP. TCP is a connection oriented protocol. Similarly, if you are using TCP, it will have its own header format. So in TCP, we had seen the unit of transfer is segments. Yes, in frames in data link layer, every frame is numbered with the help of a sequence number. Similarly, in transport layer, we have got segments. So segment is group of byte. In case of transport layer, it is byte oriented transmission. Yes, so it is sent as a group of bytes, and this group of bytes are called as a segment. Yes, so between the sending process and receiving process, stream of bytes are getting transmitted. You can see here the window representation. So it is a represented as a circular buffer. So as in data link layer flow control window, here too there is a flow control window, which is nothing but a buffer which will have multiple pointers showing the number of bytes that has been sent and acknowledged, not yet acknowledged, and bytes that can be sent but not yet sent. And similarly, at the receiver side, the number of bytes that has been processed and given to the upper layer, the number of bytes received but not yet processed. So everything will be indicated. So here we number the segments with the sequence number. The difference is, in case of data link layer, every frame is uniquely numbered, given one sequence number. Here, the number of the segment is the number of the first byte within the segment. Suppose we are sending byte number 8000 to 10,000, the sequence number of that particular segment will be 8000. So this is the range of each of the segment. Okay. So this means it is byte number 10,001 to 11,000. Yes, the value in the sequence number field of a segment defines the number of the first byte in that segment. So what will be the number of the acknowledgement byte? So it will be the number of the next byte expected by the receiver. So this is the TCP segment format. As usual, it has got a header and data. The header part, it is source port address, destination port address. All these we have seen in IP format itself, and hence I'm not repeating it again. So sequence number, acknowledgement number, header length, reserved field, window size, checksum for this header, urgent pointer. Now let me explain the few flags used, which is unique for TCP. We have certain flags called as urgent, acknowledgement, push, reset, SYN, finish. Yes, so what is the meaning of each flag? So in case you want to use that particular field for sending, then you will set it as 1. Now let us see sample. It is urgent pointer. If urgent pointer is set as 1, that means that is a higher priority data. Yes? So in case you have certain segments which has meaning only if it is sent during current time. Yes? So suppose if you send it after certain time, it has got no value. So it is a higher priority segment. In that case, you will set the urgent pointer as 1. Yes, so this urgent flag as 1, that means there is urgent data. If urgent field is set as 1, then this urgent pointer will be pointing to a memory address which consists of this higher priority data. Yes, so what happens if urgent field flag is set as 1, then the segments which are stored in consecutive bytes of these memory locations, it will be given higher priority. In say your Windows system is getting shut down. In that case, before shutting down, it will refer to the urgent pointer, it will send those data and then will gracefully shut down. Okay? So the next field is acknowledgement. If you are going to set this acknowledgement field as 1, that means these packet or this segment also is an acknowledgement. So we have got a mechanism called piggybacking. Piggybacking is sending acknowledgement along with the data. See, every segment sent will have a unique sequence number. So we are sending one data. We don't want to waste one separate segment for acknowledgement, because it's not only one sequence number is wasted, so much of header information has to be attached to it. Even though it is a control packet or data packet, this will occupy more bandwidth. Yes, so you do the piggybacking technique. Piggybacking is anyhow after establishing connection between client and server, client will send certain data and server will send certain data. In case server has some data to send, it will piggyback the acknowledgement with along with the data. It will not waste one more segment. Suppose if it has got no other segment to send, then acknowledgement will be sent as a separate segment. Yes, so if acknowledgement is sent in this segment, this field will be set as 1. Yes, so next is push. Push is the normal operation which we do it in case of stack. Again, if there is urgent data, then you use push to push the data into the stack. Yes, so higher priority data can be pushed into the stack. Reset, in case you have established a connection between the client and server, after establishing the connection, while you are transferring the data, in case there is some hiccup in the connection and your client goes down, after re-establishing, in order to re-establish the connection, if the reset field is set as 1, your original status will be restored. That's about reset flag. Yes, and then coming to SYN, in TCP we have seen that connection establishment is required. In connection establishment, the client requests for a connection to the server. Yes, in that request packet you have the synchronization flag set as 1. Yes, so SYN flag is used in connection establishment segment. And FIN, while closing the connection, this FIN bit is set as 1. Let us see about connection establishment and connection termination. So whenever there is data to be transferred, in case of TCP, there must be connection establishment followed by data transfer followed by connection termination. So after connection is established, only the data can be transferred. Yes, but here every data is transferred using the same path. So you can see server always, in client server paradigm, the server is in always on state waiting to satisfy the request from the client, and then the client makes a request which the server accepts, and then only the data transfer can take place. So what happens in this connection establishment phase is that the server is in passive open state. Yes, initially the server is in passive open state. Whenever a client wants to communicate with the server, it will go to a active open state and will send a connection request segment. How do you know it is a connection request segment? The SYN flag is set as 1. Yes, so this connection request segment will also have a sequence number, which is the number of the byte. Yes, so it is 8000. Now after receiving this connection establishment request, the server will send an acknowledgement. So for any segment sent, what will be the acknowledgement number? The number of the next segment to be transmitted. Yes, so if this also occupies one segment or one sequence number, this number is 15,000. It could be any number. In this example, it's illustrated as 15,000. Yes, this denotes the acknowledgement for the SYN request received or connection request received, and a fresh connection request from the server to the client side. And here you can see the client will respond with an acknowledgement for the connection request by the server. Yes, so you see it is a acknowledgement. Yes, so the acknowledgement, it doesn't take one additional sequence number, instead the same sequence number is used. So connection establishment, we call it as a three-way handshake. After connection establishment, the next phase is data transfer. See, the connection is established and the connection request is sent only by the client to the server. But once the connection is established, either the client can send data to server or server can send data to client. It is bidirectional transfer. So whenever one side writes, the other side can read the information. You can see here the client is sending segment 8001 and then segment 9001. The server receives it, and now the server is sending its own data with number 15,001, and this also holds the acknowledgement is piggybacked along with the data which is sent by the server. Yes, so what is the number of the next segment to be received? It is 10,001. Yes, so because 10,000 is received successfully. Yes, so and acknowledgement flag is set as 1. Yes, so this is the data sent by the server to the client. Now a client can again send the data to the server. So connection establishment, next is data transfer, and the third step is connection termination. Again, connection termination is a three-way handshake. Yes. Again, connection termination can be initiated either by a client or the server. Whichever side has completed transmission of its data can send the connection termination request. Connection establishment request, it can only be sent by the client. Data transfer, any side can initiate. Data transfer, any side can stop. And any side, either client or server, can also initiate the connection termination. Yes. So once one side decides that it has no more data to send, then the connection from its end can be terminated by sending the connection termination request. In this example, client has sent all the data, and first it is initiating a connection termination. So the whichever side initiates connection termination, it is said to be in the active close state. Yes. So as we have seen, this fin flag will be set as 1. Now after receiving this connection termination request, now the server also has no more data to send. Yes. So it is also sending its connection termination request along with the acknowledgement for the fin request received from the client side. Yes. So the fin stands for the connection termination request by the server, and acknowledgement is the acknowledgement for the connection termination request by the client side. Yes. So after receiving this, again the client must acknowledge the server connection termination request. Only after this is acknowledged, then the connection termination process will be completed. So we have seen what is active close. Yes, so after the peer sends a fin to the sender, then it is set to server is set to go in a passive close state. So we need to know what is active open, passive open, active close, passive close. Thank you. That's it. We have seen about TCP, UDP, protocol frame formats, the fields in the header, and then about TCP connection establishment, data transfer, and connection termination. And not only you should remember the field formats in TCP, UDP, or IP, you must be able to analyze it. Suppose we give a group of bits. Yes, so the bits can be either represented in binary or octal or hexadecimal. So if you know by heart the fields and how many bits each field represents, then of course you will be able to analyze the packet, decrypt. Suppose we give some values in zeros, octal or hex value combinations, and we ask you to identify the source IP address, source port number, destination IP, destination port. If you know the length of each of the field, then you will be able to analyze and decrypt the fields. Yes. So thank you.